Hello everyone, Max here. Today I'd like to do a video in English talking about the reasons why I decided to study Japanese, what I gained from studying Japanese, why I think it's worth studying Japanese if you're interested in languages, and the last thing, what advice I would give to anyone who wants to try and study the language from now on. So without further ado, here we go. So, as for why I decided to study Japanese, well, when I was in high school, I actually didn't want to go to university. I actually wanted to become a pilot, but because I had asthma, I wasn't allowed to join the RAF. So, as a second option, I wanted to study languages. Now, my reason for that was that at the time I'd studied a bit of German, I'd really enjoyed it, but I didn't study it at A-level, unfortunately, so my options were limited to languages I could study from scratch at university. So I'd looked around, and I also wanted to do like a year abroad if possible, and another thing I really wanted was to still kind of keep business. I thought just language by itself seemed a bit weak, so I wanted to kind of keep business, and then the perfect course was available for me at Cardiff University, which was business Japanese. So there was no real strong passion for Japan. It seemed kind of interesting to me, but it just kind of ticked my boxes at the time, and yeah, that was my reason for studying, and no regrets so far. It's been the best thing that's ever happened to me. Yeah, next thing. So as to what I've gained from studying Japanese, I've gained so much. I mean, this kind of relates as well to my year abroad study in Japan, but honestly it changed my perspective on many things. I mean, I grew up in a rural part of the UK. I spent most of my life in the southwest of the UK. And spending a whole entire year in Tokyo, surrounded by not only Japanese people, but also people from all over the world who were also studying, who had also kind of saved up and waited for this year for best part of 2 years or even more in some cases. That was just a fantastic experience that gave me a completely different outlook on life. It just opened my horizons in so many different ways. And also, I really started to raise my expectations on life. Through that, I really started to look forward to the future more. I really started to kind of aim high. I really wanted to achieve a lot of things, and that all kind of came from my year abroad and being able to develop my language ability. So that was definitely something. I mean, the widening of horizons and the raising of my own expectations. And then as the language itself, it's opened so many employment opportunities to me. I pretty much have got every single job. I've probably made every single yen that I've made up to this date has been because of my language abilities. I mean, of course, now probably about half of my income comes from translation, so that's one massive factor. Me, being someone who really likes to work by myself. Well, rather than by myself, I'd say for myself is probably a better way to put it. This kind of translation helps out that way, and yeah, there are mountains of opportunity here in Japan if you can speak the language. So it's been amazing in that way, and yeah, it's just given me so much. So that's what I've gained. Yeah. So next, why do I recommend Japanese? I recommend Japanese for one reason, because there are very little or not a lot of proficient English speakers in Japan. Especially if your native language is English, perhaps maybe studying other languages, of course it can be beneficial, but depending on the amount of native English speakers in the language in that country, maybe that will be less efficient than studying a language where there are less speakers of native language if it's English. Japan happens to tick that box perfectly. If you're in Japan and you can speak a very good level of Japanese and you have some other skills to go, there are opportunities galore. Also, Japan is very easy to get to, actually. Very easy to get a visa if you graduate university. And your native language is English. There are many English teaching opportunities available for you if that's what you want to do. And it can also be a good stepping stone onto any other opportunities. If you're just leaving high school and you want to go to Japanese school and then go to Japanese university, this is also a very viable option. Visas are not hard to get for these kind of things. They're not that expensive. Many students can get by working part-time jobs in Japan and working these things. I mean, if you're a native speaker of English, you might even be able to do some teaching things that pay better than typical part-time jobs. Or if you were to learn some skills on the side or anything. There's so much to do here, and the aging population in Japan. Now, typically this seems a negative thing, but the good thing is, because of the lack of people, there are many job opportunities. So this is one very practical way to learn the language. Another thing I would say is that it gives you such a different perspective. Once you kind of see the world through a Japanese lens, as I kind of mentioned earlier, it really widens your perspective on life. It completely widened my perspective. Of course, that was combined with my study abroad, but it just gave me a brand new look on life completely. So that's one thing I think you would definitely get by studying languages, studying the language, looking at things through the Japanese lens, and if possible, coming and spend time here. Japan is the third largest economy in the world still. There's a lot to gain here. There are many, many awesome resources that are only in Japanese, so you can learn so much. So I definitely recommend learning Japanese if you are interested in learning languages. So lastly, what is my advice to those of you who have decided to take the challenge of studying Japanese? Now, I would say one of the biggest things is going to be making a study group, especially if you're studying by yourself. Now, if you're going to study at university, there are many the university will kind of provide this kind of environment for you. But if by making your own study group, by making commitments inside that study group, by saying to each other, okay, by this date, I'm going to achieve this, that's really going to help you get over those early stages where you have difficulty with Japanese. I mean, there are so many benefits to having a study group. For example, you can perhaps invite Japanese people into your study group to teach you as a group. That'll then cost you less money to then hire this person, for example. The motivation aspect of it, the fact that people will bring in different information, they'll learn different things, they'll share different things with each other. You can bring in advanced learners of the language, you can bring in people that are just starting. I think having this study group, create this online community of learners, it could be online, it could be in person, is going to be something that's going to really help you get over those early stages. Once you start to get into kind of an intermediate level, probably your momentum will take you, and you can probably just then you're at the races, you can just run from there. But that's probably definitely one thing I think people should focus on, setting those goals and just kind of really going for it. It's a really hard language to learn at the start, probably for most people. So getting that kind of environment that's going to keep you committed, that's going to keep you going, is really going to be something that's going to help you out in the long run. In regards to the Japanese language itself, just a few things from my experience. Number one, I really recommend at an early stage getting down Japanese pitch accent. I know YouTuber Dogen has an amazing series on this. I think for his Patreon you can get it for like $10 a month, which is an absolute bargain. He has an amazing series on this. Kind of the accent of certain words in Japanese is something that I didn't spend enough time on. Actually probably learning as a process, and I can definitely do improvements on my pitch accent, and it's something I want to focus from now on, working on, especially as I'm trying to make lots of videos in Japanese. So this is something I really recommend. There are people say Japanese pronunciation is easy, but actually getting fluent native pronunciation is actually very hard. And that's something you want to get down. And I got my pronunciation as good as possible just by copying a lot, which is great, but then there's lots of words that I've only ever really read, so I don't really know how they're actually pronounced properly. So I come across issues like this actually quite often, especially if I'm just saying the word alone in isolation. So that's one thing I definitely recommend. Point number two, of course, Japanese uses lots of Chinese characters, as you can see in the books behind me. This is going to take a lot of learning. My advice, something that benefited me a lot, was learning through context. So I would never learn individual kanji characters, or I would, but when I was learning the character, I was always learning as a word, right? Perhaps I can just give you an example from the books behind me. I can see in my reflection, we have this one book here, which is talking about polite language in Japanese. Keigo, for example. So if we're learning this word kei, there's a kanji character here, kei, which kind of means like politeness. Well, keigo is polite language, yeah? There are many kind of words that contain this, so I would always learn the word here and make some kind of example sentences, like 上司と話すときには、敬語を使った方がいい. So when you're speaking with your boss, you should use 敬語, right? So it's 上司, not 女子, right? Anyway. But yeah, that's one thing. For example, I would recommend. I'd also recommend learning the radicals. So each kanji, for example, has different parts. I should have left this book out. So as we can see here, there's one part here, one part here, and one part here. This makes it right. Or if we see perhaps this one here, there's one here, one in the middle, one at the end. By learning these different parts, you can actually, pretty much all these characters are just combinations of different parts. So especially with writing, if you can learn these so-called radicals, this will really actually help you improve your kanji ability, I believe. So that's two things. Point number three is, as much as possible, to use these kind of natural resources. Natural resources, what am I talking about? Learn as much as possible from natural Japanese. So is that songs? I mean, there's so much awesome Japanese music. Any genre you can find, there is amazing Japanese artists in that genre. So really, really good stuff. It's not all just AKB and that kind of stuff, which can also be really good fun. I think there's probably, everyone has their own guilty pleasure. of these kind of tunes, but there's all kinds of music, something I didn't know until my third year. So introduced me to stuff. There's so much good music, so music I definitely recommend. There's so many good movies, there's some really good TV shows and dramas as well. You can find it all online. At the start, just watch it with English subtitles, or if you like anime and manga, it goes without saying, yeah, but just watch it with English subtitles, pick some stuff up from there, and just try and spend as much time as you can immersing yourself in the language. There's also another awesome, really good YouTube channel called, I think it's Matt vs. Japan. He has an amazing channel. He talks about immersion, which is pretty much what I did during my 4th and 3rd year. I really improved. That was awesome. Last thing I want to say is a really commonly used thing, but something that really saved me and I liked, which is the app Anki, learning through SRS rote memory, I think they call it. It's a flashcard app. You can customize everything. The guy I just mentioned, actually, Matt vs. Japan, I think has some really cool add-ons from Anki, which will make you make your flashcards way quicker, and they'll add on, pronunciation and stuff like that. But yeah, just making your own flashcards and doing flashcards every day is just a way that'll help you improve so quickly. And just the most important thing is please don't just learn written or don't just learn sound. Try to combine it. Try to keep combining that in your head, especially as it's a new language, it's a new alphabet to learn. So as usual, maybe I'm talking for a little bit too long here, but I'm just incredibly passionate about this subject. I decided to do a video in English today. If anyone is interested in me making more videos about Japanese or anything like this, please let me know. I'll be happy to hear, and I know I am baby stepping my way up with video content and the quality. I'm trying to do what I can, but I just hope in any way this is useful to you guys listening. Okay, alright, that's it for today. As always, as I said, thanks for listening, and I'll see you again next time.